Hello, my name is Nicholas Ulto. I am a senior sociology major with a marketing minor, and my topic for my 5-minute video and paper was the NFL and the Black Lives Matter movement. I chose this topic because I'm a very big fan of football, and with the rise of the Black Lives Matter movement this summer, anytime an athlete spoke up and shared their opinion, I saw what they had to say. Another reason I chose this topic is because of the movement itself. The Black Lives Matter movement is one that has either gained attention in our country or one that has been swept under the rug after being talked about for about a week. The most current Black Lives Matter movement is not one that was forgotten about, rather a movement that saw hundreds if not thousands of protests and protesters in many cities across the country. Injustices against the African American community and police officers using excessive force have both been tied with our country's history for far too long. Injustices against the African American community can be traced back to our country's origin, while police officers using excessive force can be traced back to about 30 years. One of the more infamous names in history is Rodney King. On March 3, 1991, Rodney King was beaten brutally by 4 LAPD police officers for being a part of a high-speed car chase and for drunk driving. Even though King was not innocent, the way that the LAPD responded in that incident was not justified, and the country realized that. After the beating of King, the country responded in a similar way to when after George Floyd was murdered and started protesting. Many of the protests turned violent and kept happening until a trial that charged all 4 officers with assault and 3 out of the 4 with excessive force happened. For as big an event as this was, very little change was seen. The police still had issues with the black community and continued to use excessive force when they viewed necessary. Since that date, in 1991, many members of the black community have lost their lives to the hands of police officers, such as Trayvon Martin, Eric Garner, Breonna Taylor, and as mentioned earlier, George Floyd. The National Football League is a league that is predominantly black. Reportedly, 70% of the NFL at the beginning of the 2020 season was black. NFL athletes are no strangers when it comes to speaking up about social injustices. One quarterback's name who the majority of the country probably knows, but not for his on-field talent, is Colin Kaepernick. Colin Kaepernick is more widely known for kneeling during the national anthem during Week 1 of the NFL season in 2016. Kaepernick was kneeling because he wanted to raise awareness about the issues of racial inequality and police brutality in our country. Kaepernick faced adversity from almost everyone at the time, whether it be newscasters or sports broadcasters, or fans, or even players. Shortly after the kneeling incident, Colin Kaepernick was released by the San Francisco 49ers, and 4 years later has not played a snap in the NFL. 3 NFL players who spoke up about the police department, the black community, and the protests are Cincinnati Bengals quarterback Joe Burrow, New Orleans Saints quarterback Drew Brees, and New Orleans Saints safety Malcolm Jenkins. All 3 players are big-name players, and with the exception of Burrow, who was a rookie that was drafted first overall in 2020, have both been in the league for over 10 years. Burrow tweeted less than a month after being drafted, "The black community needs our help. They have been unheard for far too long. Open your ears, listen, and speak." Burrow is also one of 1,400 players who signed a letter that was sent to the United States Congress that would end qualified immunity for police officers. Another player that signed that letter was Drew Brees. Burrow's comments about the situation were treated with praise, but Brees cannot say the same. Brees was asked during an interview about players kneeling during the national anthem and said, "We still have a long way to go, but I think what you do by standing there and showing respect to the flag with your hand over your heart is it shows unity. It shows that we are all in this together, we can all do better, and we are all part of the solution." Brees' comments immediately faced backlash, especially from his new teammate Malcolm Jenkins. Jenkins said that Brees' comments were hurtful, insensitive, and also appeared on CNN to talk about Brees' comments. When asked about what he thought, Jenkins started tearing up and could barely get his point across. Brees eventually apologized after he saw how his comments were perceived, and Jenkins thanked him and said that he appreciated Brees for being able to listen about the situation. The National Football League is in a perfect position to speak up about the Black Lives Matter movement. Many of the players, whether they personally have been affected or not, have family members and friends who have probably faced discrimination just for being black. Also, with the emergence of social media, it is easier than ever to share your opinion, whether it be through an Instagram post, an Instagram story, or just a tweet. Even though I only mentioned 3 players, many others have shared what they thought. The NFL itself released a commercial with 20 different players speaking up about the killing of innocent people. The NFL also let teams put sayings on the back of their helmets, very similar to the way that the NBA did with the jerseys. The NFL let teams put Black Lives Matter on the back of the helmet instead of their team name. This was my presentation on the NFL and the Black Lives Matter movement. Thank you for listening to what I had to say.